And
Yeah,
then
we can just jump straight in.
we can stop streaming um if yeah, if it's like
Yeah.
okay. Um one sec. I'm learning that like YouTube doesn't like me to just like go live and then go live and then go live. Like it has a sort of you're not able to yeah. Why does it do this sometimes? OBS is like, yeah, you're streaming, and like YouTube is like, no, you're not.
Weird. Um, yeah, I mean, I can find out real quick by just going to.
I don't think it's live right now. I think YouTube is correct.
It says we're live.
Okay.
Yeah, this is us.
Huh. What happens then that this happens? So you can see us right now.
Yeah, there we are,
It
streaming
says
right now.
we're live. That's
Oh,
so
and there's the
weird.
delay.
Um,
Yeah,
I don't
this
know
is
how to.
us.
It's like no. I don't know what to
You
do
can
about
see
the
us
fact
right
that it.
now.
Okay, why don't you talk about the Gettysburg Address while I do this?
Okay. I mean, I don't have a lot more lore about it, which is like,
Well,
uh,
I start from the beginning because I heard like none of that because I was like trying to listen to the video to see if our audio is working.
yeah. Yeah, so you were saying that you were glad that I don't know much of the Gettysburg Address because, American propaganda. My point is just of the presidential speeches, the Gettysburg Address is like one of the best ones to know just because it was like Lincoln basically like rallying the Union as part of like the Civil War. So like I I'm trying to think about like when did the Gettysburg come on? Yeah, November 19th, 1963. He gave the speech at the dedication of the Soldiers National Cemetery, which is now the Gettysburg National Cemetery, following the Battle of Gettysburg. Um, so yeah, it was a pretty solid like rallying the troops and like remember what we're fighting for and remember like we're not a nation of slavery speech. So like again, as far as like presidential speeches go, like one of the least egregious as far as like American propaganda. That said, I only remember a fraction of the first line, or maybe the full first line. I remember more of Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven than I do the Gettysburg Address. So, which is, I don't know if I should feel ashamed considering that my minor in college was in American history. But, it's fine.
American history as told by Americans. Um,
Yeah.
and I'm hard on American, but like Western centrism is like a whole thing. Like I've been thinking more and more about just how being like neighbors with America means that like we've been sort of equally brainwashed. I've been thinking a little bit about the whole like recent debacle with Hassan Piker going to Cuba and you know I think he's being sued or they're pressing charges or something. Um, against him. And I was thinking a lot about, so Johnny and I play this game Civilization 6, which is kind of like
Yes.
really extra have you played it before?
I've heard so much about it. I've watched people play it. Kaleo was
Okay.
playing it for a while. I have not touched it, but it's mostly because I feel like I would be the kind of person to get obsessed with that kind of game.
Yeah, it's really like I've played just hundreds of hours of it with Johnny, and every time we play he's like, "Did you know you could do this?" And I'm like, "What?" Like there's just so many layers. It's so deep. But you know, essentially for our all of our viewers out there, I like basically Civilization 6 is like sort of a very complicated version of Risk. Or you know, that's oversimplified, but you have a map of the quote unquote world, and you can choose like characters, and you play against other civilizations. So they're actually real leaders of real civilizations, and you play against each other, and they have like gifts and problems based on like the actual leader. So you can play as like, you know, Alexander the Great, or like Pericles, or um, you know, uh, Wilfrid Laurier or Teddy Roosevelt or whatever. Um, and you play against other civilizations that are controlled by the computer sometimes. So you have all these. And like when we first started playing, like one of the funny things that happens is like certain civilizations will just like attack you kind of out of nowhere, or like they'll get grumpy with you and like hate you and like not want to do trades with you and stuff like this. And you know, so you have this kind of friendship meter with different civilizations. So like, you know, we're playing this game and oftentimes we're like, oh, like Pericles hates me, and I'm like, I don't know like why. And you can go deep into the character and like look at your friendship and look at the reasons like why this particular leader is disgruntled against you, or like why he has grievances against you. And like so many, like I would say like a huge amount of time that a random computer civilization attacks you out of nowhere, when you're like, why did he do that? And you like, or why did she do that? And you go into your friendship meter and you look at it and you look at your grievances. It's like almost always like, you have different governments. It's like so you're like, what? It's like it was kind of this joke because, you know, we're like, the guy just attacked me because I have a different form of government than him. And then it hit me like as soon as I said it out loud to Johnny, I was like, actually, that's what like 90% of wars are about, like these days, especially with this whole like democracy versus communism thing. Even though like you can actually be communist and democratic at the same time, but there's this, you know, like the America sanctioning Cuba, you know, and the West in general has like, so one of the things that like America has done is like propagandize this idea like that democracy is the system of, it's like the most egalitarian, the most like free version of government, and then like created all these cold wars with anybody who had a different form of government than them. And like, you know, I did like my big final project on Korea, for example, and like what started the Korean War that divided them into South and North Korea. And it was like post World War II, like America was, you know, dominating the world at that point. Like the world was like handing over their power to the American dollar, to the American empire, because, you know, like they were like, okay, like these guys have nukes, so like let's just like do what they tell us. And like if we're their allies, like they're on our team, then like cool, we've got the nukes on our team. And if they're, you know, against us, then that's not good. So this is how the world kind of got divided. And America decided to divide it along the lines of like, you have a different form of government than us. Like that is literally what happened. So in Korea, like what was actually happening post World War II was, you know, obviously Korea had been like, during World War II, like China had taken over parts, Japan had taken over parts, because both of them were like opportunists, because both Japan and China claim Korea as theirs. And so like
Yeah.
they both, as opportunists, like jumped in there and were like, yeah, with like snatched parts of Korea. And like the Koreans see themselves obviously as distinct people and distinct culture, which they are. And they were like, as soon as World War II was over, they were like, we want our like peninsula back. which the world, like the Allies and everybody, like agreed to it. Um,
Mhm.
but then it was like, well, so the Koreans. So what happened was within Korea, they actually started developing their own government. There was like they started a Korean government for the whole peninsula that was like Canada, a hybrid of socialism and capitalism. So it was just like Canada, a little bit of mix of both, a little bit
Yeah.
socialist, a little bit capitalist. And the Russians were like, who were the allies at the time, right during World War II,
Mhm.
were like, I think they like went in there and they like supported another group of Koreans who were like, we want to be pure communism. And the Americans went in and they were like, you have to be pure capitalist. And so they set up and started like supporting another like offshoot government, like groups of people who were like pure capitalists who wanted to run Korea. And like the Russians and the Americans just like were like dumping money into these opposing, instead of just letting Korea like have the government it had already created and voted for, which was this hybrid
Mhm.
system. And then they eventually caused like one of the worst wars on the planet, where 80% of Korea was destroyed, like an ancient civilization that had been there for tens of thousands of years. They like, or maybe not
Mhm.
tens of thousands, but certainly thousands of years. They destroyed 80% of the infrastructure, the buildings, everything. Like murderous, horrible war, split the country in two, created by virtue nuclear armed North Korean autocracy. And all because of this perfectly summarized Civilization 6. You have a different government than us. And like, I don't know if you actually managed to finish, Confessions of an Economic Hitman, but that like, this is what it comes down to is this idea of like, we have, so I'm including Canadians in this, take responsibility for this, and British, and sort of created this Western, we have this like major Western propaganda thing going where we're like, we're the free countries, like we're the democracies, like this is the way to be. And then we impose sanctions on anybody who does anything different, and then we're like, look at how China like treats the Uyghurs. Meanwhile, like America's going into Panama and like carpet bombing their fucking places. America created Panama because it was like, no, we want this to be our territory. Like American CIA is like literally killing people and like putting fucking other like leaders in who are like worse to their people um because they're like, well, like this way, like these guys are going to play ball with us economically. Like I'm just
Yeah.
thinking more and more about like how brainwashed, like, you're live on YouTube right now, by the
Yeah.
way,
Yeah.
Orion.
You are live on YouTube, so I would suggest scooping to the side should you not want to be on. Okay? Love you. You're the absolute best.
So I've just been thinking more and more about like how just like we in the West have been, when they people like, you know when we talk about China or we talk about North Korea, we talk about places like Iran or like Saudi Arabia, and we're like, we talk about them as propagandizing their people against the West. And I'm like, actually, like, I'm in that same bubble. It's just kind of a bigger bubble than like just my country, right? Like North Korea is so small, or like what China is kind of like small comparatively to if you like scoop all the democratic Western nations together, right? Like even China is just one country, selling its sort of propagandized view of the West. But on the other hand, I'm like that's what's happened to us. Is like we're all like, I'm just so, it's always so surprising like how much like people are just like China's bad, or like North Korea's bad, or so these Cuba, like what's happening in Cuba is like it's You don't like their government, like you don't like that they have a different, they're America's literally like, I don't like your government, and so like is starving civilians, is like starving people, killing people in hospitals, killing the elderly, has been doing this forever, was doing this to Iran, all these South American nations, Venezuela, Argentina, like all these places. And it's making more and more be like, okay, so like China, what they did in Tibet was horrible. Um, I obviously don't like how they treat their Uyghurs, but like, are, they're not really, they're like, America's kind of worse, right? So how much of the propaganda that they're telling their people about like the West is actually accurate, is actually like truth telling that we're unwilling to do ourselves. So I'm feeling more or like less and less brainwashed recently, and more like, holy shit, like we have got to stop this, like, you have a different government than me, like our governments are no better than their governments. We are not, like, America is not a hero, Canada's not a hero, like none of, like, England's not a hero, like democratic nations are not heroes. We're in many respects worse than some of these countries. Like, when's the last time North Korea did shit to anybody? Like, other than its own people. Like, don't get me wrong, but like we do shit to our own people too. Like, Carney's fucking selling out our country right now. Like just like help yourself to the environment, which has been like Canada's most biggest problem since time immemorial, is this whole idea of like, will be your backyard that you can come in and just harvest because our population's so low. So like, who cares about the polar bears or whatever? And we just like sacrifice like indigenous communities and ecosystems so that like two Canadian guys can be rich, and a handful of like, blue collar fucking miners and foresters and fishers and oil workers or whatever can drive $100,000 trucks and like buy hookers, right? Like, it. Yeah, I'm really like, when's it gonna end? Like, when are we all just gonna see ourselves as like a unified species?
I mean, God, there's so much of what you said that I want to address. I I feel like my answer to your most recent question is never, because like humanity has always thrived on like tribal mindset, in group and out group mindset. Like that is so much of what like everyone, every country, every developed and even undeveloped nation is pushing, is like us versus them mentality. And I think it's going to take like you would think that a global pandemic would have been the thing that could have like torn that down and been like, oh, like we're all humans in the human experience together. But it didn't. It turned into
Yeah.
finger pointing and blaming. It turned into like American propaganda machines saying China manufactured this virus to hurt us. But also the virus isn't real. But also the virus is real, but you have to take horse dewormer to deal with it. Like this sort of like multifaceted, like we're just going to throw out all the bullshit that we can and hope that something in there resonates for you, because the other option, like the truth of the matter is, like, if people recognize it is not a manufactured pandemic, it is a real illness that has emerged that needs like special care and protocol to stop it, then like the government would have to admit, yeah, we dropped the ball on like taking care of this, managing this in an appropriate way, and we allowed
Yeah.
far more deaths than needed to happen. Um, but like you brought up the like Chinese propaganda against the United States, and also like the fact that like so much of like the Chinese propaganda that we hear is just very much a your government bad, your government different than my government, that's bad. And like we saw some of this like realization happening back when TikTok went down in the US. Because a bunch of people jumped on, I believe it was Red Note, which was like a Chinese owned, Chinese run, Chinese social media that was similar to TikTok. Um, and so like you've got a bunch of like folks from the US like suddenly like sharing social media space with people based in China. And so, like, the first thing that happened was this realization of, oh, like, y'all are just people, which, like, that shouldn't have had to be a realization. But, like, you have to, like, take how
Yeah.
stupid you think the average American is, and then, like, half that. And, like, that's kind of the
Yeah.
sort of wavelength that a lot of people are operating on. Like, it really took until that moment for them to be like, oh, like, you're just like normal people. You're not all like brainwashed communists who want to like bring death to America or whatever. Um, the second thing that started happening is like people started hearing from Chinese people, like just average people, like the fact that like their life was pretty good in China. Like one of the benefits of like a communist system is like a lot of money is put into like public support, public infrastructure, like seeing photos from like some of the major cities in China and seeing how clean they're kept and like how like beautiful the architecture is and like how well maintained like all of the greenery and stuff is. Like it's truly like they take pride in like these spaces and like in providing for like their citizens. And like I'm not saying that they're doing a perfect job of that, but I am saying like the average citizen over there was perfectly content with like their government and with like what was going on in their world. You know, there were a lot of perspectives that were shared that were basically like, yeah, you know, there's a lot of like societal pressure to like conform. So like there's not as much like tolerance for like standing out, which like to the average American who like prides themselves on that like American exceptionalism, that individualism, that like I am a special boy and everyone should care about me specifically. Like that sounds horrifying, but like that's also very prominent in a lot of Asian countries in general. Like more communal like social structure means that like there's like more pressure for like everyone to kind of like meld into that. Like people who like want to like stick out like aren't like supporting that system. Um and so like that is like not exclusive to China. Like that is a cultural facet of like many Asian nations. Um is that idea that like everyone should sort of like play their role as a piece in this machine rather than like trying to stand out as like the specialist boy in the world. Um but then like also people were being introduced to like Chinese propaganda against America and we're walking away with the realization of like, oh shit, a lot of this is just true. A
Yeah.
lot of this is like fluffed maybe a little bit for like drama's sake, but a lot of it is just true and factual. And I think it was like really like not everyone has unpacked their like American imperialist sort of mindset. I think for a lot of people who were just going over there to have like a fun little social media experience, like that was their moment of like unpacking like, oh
Yeah.
shit, like this is what the rest of the world thinks about us and I can't even refute it.
Yeah.
Um but like getting into the broader like countries hating each other because like they dislike each other's like government or whatever, like this is truly like the fuel behind so much war, like all war I would say. Like it is at least in part fueled by like you have a different form of government than I do. But the thing is like the people who are like picking up that fight like can't really like there is no like justification that makes sense. There's no justification in that that is not hypocritical because they say, well, democracy is the best government in the world. Okay, so then why isn't the United States like not actually practicing
Yeah.
democracy?
Yeah.
Like it's democracy in
It's
name
so great.
only.
Why
Like
don't you do it?
exactly. Like because like we are not like a truly representative government. If we were like, yes, democracy is the best way, then fucking make Puerto Rico the 51st state and give them proper representation in our
Yeah.
government. Like what the fuck are we doing?
Stop the
Like
gerrymandering. Start actually dividing the country up.
oh
Get rid
my
of the
god.
electoral college, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, those
Yeah,
are like, that's like low hanging fruit. Territories,
yeah.
Fucking gerrymandering and electoral college is low hanging fruit to create a more accurate democracy. Like,
Exactly, exactly. Um, because yeah, like what we have right now is not a truly representative democracy in any means. Okay, so then you look at the argument of like, well, the people there are unhappy with their government. The people here are very unhappy with the
yeah,
government. And like that wouldn't justify like our government would lose their fucking minds if some other country saw that as an open door to come in and
yeah,
kidnap our president
yeah,
and start like
yeah,
massive warfare on our soil, and then like promise, you know, 15 years down the line they're going to help us rebuild after we fight it out. Like,
yeah,
no, that's insane. Like trust that countries can like manage their own sort of like internal tension and internal conflict. Like, it's not an excuse. Um so yeah, like we have the government being like, well, like communism is evil, but it's like communism is different. Socialism is different. Like a fucking monarchy is different. Like, why what is the like driving force behind like every government in the world needs to be the same kind of government? There's
yeah.
like
And this,
nothing.
yeah, there's like a myth that somehow there's more corruption. Like, I understand like the need to get away from a monarchy or an autocracy. I get that, but on this, in the same breath, it's like, can you like give me an example of a government that hasn't been corrupted? So like, maybe you can give me some examples of governments that weren't corrupt, but like a system of government that didn't become corrupted doesn't exist. Like democratic
Exactly.
governments are like, you know, we have a similar issue here in Canada in this whole like first past the post system. Like, we have to choose between Tweedledee and Tweedledum, neither of which have our best interest in mind. Um, and both of which serve the powerful. It's just like, do you want to serve these powerful people, or do you want your tax dollars to be funneled to these rich people, or do you want your tax dollars to be funneled to these rich people? That's what democracy has created for us. Is
Mhm.
it's like a Sophie's choice, not a real choice.
Yeah, it's 100% like there are going to be powerful, rich, corrupt people at the top. Like, pick your poison.
Yeah,
Choose like which one you're willing to fund with your tax dollars and your life.
yeah,
Like there's no good choice in democracy. And like America is so fucking entrenched in the two-party system that it's like it's truly like so frustrating because like in other democratic nations,
yeah,
like generally there are more than two parties that are there, and you see sort of like a push, a pull, and ebb, a flow. Like when one party like has worn out its welcome, another one is there to take its place. In the United States, it is like a 50-50 split, and then you've got like little green party, little libertarians that get like, you know, maybe like 0.5% of the vote. But we don't have like any like viable third parties. And so like it's created like I know you and I have talked about this before, but it's created this sense of like, okay, we have these two parties, and the right has started to move more right, like further and further and further right. Like it went from like even like Reagan's Republican Party, which was still shit, was still like far closer to center than like what we have now. We have an
Reagan's
extreme
basically Biden
right.
compared to like,
Well, so this is the other thing is like the Democratic Party, instead of moving more leftist, which is what
they
the
move more right as
constituents would
well.
want, they're following along because they're like, well, we've got to catch the people who like aren't quite
Yeah,
as far right as this, who need someone to vote for. Instead of looking at like who has been our consistent backers, they are looking at like how can we get more votes from the right, which is like part of the reason why Kamala Harris lost the election, is because she was
Yeah. She
leaning
moved right.
into right-leaning talking points. So
Yeah.
people were like, okay, she's a former cop, and like now she's also
Yeah.
like bringing all these like conservative talking points, trying to appeal to the conservatives, not doing
Yeah.
anything to like
Hanging
represent this
like she doesn't
entire constituency.
she's like, I'm not gonna go do an interview with Hassan Piker. Instead, I'm gonna hang out with Liz Cheney. But I just got to interject here, and I want to let you finish, but I got to interject. Same exact thing in Canada. Like, this is what's going on with Carney, is he's basically a conservative. Like, he's doing all the things that he's building the pipelines, and like, all the conservatives are what we call crossing the aisle. So like a bunch of like people in the Conservative Party have actually joined him, like left the Conservative Party and joined the quote unquote liberals, because the quote unquote liberals are basically conservatives now. Now, that being said, like, you know, we do have farther left parties like the NDP and the Greens. So, but to your point, I just want to say, like, similar thing is happening in Canada, where it's like the conservatives have gotten even more to the right, and then the liberals are like, we better catch up and go more to the right, because like that's what the people want. But like, actually, no, it's not what the people want. It's what the gerrymandering has done, because like the rural vote has way more power than the city vote, and like the majority of Canadians are liberal. And if it was actually divided proportionally, and like we had proportional representation in our, like if we had a single transferable vote or something like the Australian system, guaranteed like the NDP would be like, at least the NDP would be the opposition party, if not the leaders of Canada. Because the majority of city-dwelling Canadians, which is where our population is, are liberal.
Yeah.
And yeah, like with the same
Yeah,
thing with the
it's
Democrats. I'm like, why? You know, there was some stuff that came out during the like primaries between Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders, when they were the two leading contenders to like lead the Democratic Party, or the Democrats in your country. And there were like some things that came out that were very like conspiracy theory oriented afterwards, that were like Hillary Clinton didn't actually win. Like there was ballot tampering so that Hillary Clinton won. And I'm like, I don't know if that's true, but let me say, I also wouldn't be shocked if it was. But even if let's say it's not true, let's say that's like a bunch of conspiracy hubbub. Like the Democrats did not want Bernie Sanders to lead them, so they threw every penny they could against like the hawk Hillary Clinton, because they were like, anything but Bernie, you know, because it's like he's not going to support the donors, and he's going to make policies that they knew would piss off their donors. So like, I believe there was sort of a conspiracy, in the sense, at the very least, within the Democratic Party to tank him. And just like what is happening in, is it Maine right now, where you have this sort of like radical crab farmer, and immediately the Democratic Party, or the Democrats, were like, oh boy, we need to have somebody to like primary against him that's like a fucking line tower, and they threw somebody in there like right away to fight. It's like they're never gonna back an AOC or a Bernie Sanders. Not that I would want Bernie Sanders; he's too old. But you know,
right.
somebody like AOC, people would come out like, and they know that, and they'd rather lose the election to Donald Trump than fucking hand over the keys to somebody like AOC.
Well, like this is exactly why like Mamdani getting elected was such a huge fucking deal, because like he is truly a leftist.
Yes.
Like he is like a democratic socialist in his principles.
Yes.
Like that, and that is exactly like what he has been exhibiting in how he has been running New York City. And like this is why like there were the meltdowns, and suddenly like slinging all the mud that they possibly could, because like he flew far enough under the radar and had enough support. Like the establishment was not able to crush him down before he could win, showing that like those are the kind of leaders that people want. And so now like he is an anomaly in their system, because they do crush out like all competition who like are not following that rightward trend of the Democratic Party. Like Bernie could never, like, it is accepted as fact in the United States, not as conspiracy theory, as fact that the Democratic Party intentionally snuffed out Bernie Sanders' campaign because he was a threat to their establishment, because the Democratic Party is still like run by and funded by like as many rich people as the Republican Party.
Yeah.
Like you look at like who the Democratic Party supports and funds and everything else, you're not looking at like democratic socialists, like true leftists who are like looking to make things better for the people. Like it's like also rich capitalists who just happen to like maybe care about the environment a little bit, or who don't immediately throw up when they see gay people kiss, or like who have a spouse of color, so they're totally not racist, you know? Like it's, the bar is so fucking low for like someone to be considered a Democrat, and like still we have this propaganda machine from the right that's like talking about the woke leftists and directing that towards the Democratic Party, which is like radicalizing more people to think this, what the Democratic Party represents, which we have agreed is essentially like what Reagan's Republicanism was.
Yeah, exactly.
Like we have a bunch of people who think the Democratic Party is extremist woke leftist.
Yeah.
And so it's just fucking cascading so much shit just further and further and further right, and we don't have another party. Like the Green Party is considered a joke. Yeah. Like Jill Stein has run for the Green Party God knows how many times now, and it's just a joke at this point. It's like, well, there's Jill. Like no one cares. The Libertarian Party is the one that like maybe has the most chances of like breaking into like the big, like making a big three. But the Libertarian Party is like fucking riddled with QAnon people. Like it's not like centrist thinking the government should stay out of our business. Cause like I used to think, like reading like libertarian principles, I used to think like, oh, this sounds kind of like where my mindset falls is like live and let live. Like the government should stay out of our business. Like let state level governments sort of handle things more, because like the federal government is never going to like represent the American people the way that we want it to. So like why not just like have a smaller federal government, put that money into states so that like state governments can like actually fund what they need to. And again, just that sort of live and let live. But again, like the Libertarian Party as it exists now is like fucking off-gridder, doomsday prepper, QAnon theorists. Like they are like also radicalized far right.
Yeah.
And so it's like if the Libertarian Party were to come in to kind of like take votes away from establishment Republicans, it would just make, okay, like now we have the far right party, but crazy, and then the center right party, and nothing. Yep. Nothing further left than the Democrats. And so like, oh my God. And to bring this back to the like your government bad sort of argument is like our government is not even consistent. Like what it looks like when like the different parties are like in charge, like that's not like are we really telling the rest of the world, hey, you need to switch over to this system where every 4 years someone of a new party is going to get elected and just spend their entire 4 years in office undoing what the last guy did rather than like doing literally anything that would be productive
and campaigning for the next one? Like I when I listen to like my tech and business podcasts, like that often comes up in the discussions about like China, and you know, obviously I listen to mainly American ones because like that's where tech and business is centric, and also because it's in English. I'm not going to be listening to Chinese ones. I don't speak Chinese. But it's funny because like whenever the question of China comes up in the discussion, like I think it's Scott Galloway who kind of, I'm not sure if it's him or if it might actually be Kara Swisher, but I'm pretty sure it's on their podcast that I've heard this this conversation happen a few times. But like the fact that China is not a democracy creates like that the government can think long term. So it can make so you have a country that has been an empire before. It has thousands of years of history and it's been stable in that, like, aside from a few places like Tibet, Taiwan, Korea, like tiny little sort of, no offense to Korea, but like geographically tiny little areas that they sort of, have expanded and contracted over the years. China has largely stayed the same piece of geography for thousands of years with the same culture or like the same cultures. And then you have a government that's an autocracy, so guys there for life. So whenever they are like faced with certain challenges or they make a decision, they're thinking like about 20 to 1,000 years into the future. They're thinking about how their decisions are going to ripple 1,000 years into the future. America isn't thinking about, all they're thinking about is the next primary, the next midterms. Like they're thinking so short term. And same with Canada. I'm lumping Canada, but this democratic system, like, I understand why it was put in place. I understand the disadvantages of having an autocracy. Trust me, it's not like I'm lining up to change systems. But on the other hand, when I'm listening to people who are like into tech and business, like they have to always be considering that when they're talking about sort of the American Chinese struggle to like, be the first in AI or whatever, or like to get the most chips, or are we moving to wind or solar? So like, for example, like China is an autocracy that isn't worried about its next election, doesn't have donors backing it that it has to please. It's this like great empire ruled by autocrats who are like, oh, climate change is a real thing, because they're allowed to believe that, because they don't have to pander to any idiots. They can just like listen to the fucking scientists and know what's real and like make decisions based on like reality. So their best scientists come to them and they say climate change is real. Eventually we're going to have to decarbon our system. And they're like, oh yeah, like we're an industrial base, like let's start doing that now. Let's beat everybody to the punch so that by the time we're all fucking drowning in these coastal cities, China is going to be number one in like green energy. So they started making strides towards that. Now the Strait of Hormuz is about to get cut off, and they're like, good thing we set up all these fucking solar wind farms and shit, because it's already paying off for them so quickly. And then they also, make decisions about what was I going to say? Well, anyways, that's just one example of like this ability to think long term that we like just don't have, because our systems of governments are flawed in a different way than theirs are. So yeah, like, oh yeah, I was gonna say, like the like whole like industrialization of like what Xi Jinping has done, where he was like, we're gonna create like we're gonna be the manufacturing base of the globe. Like it took decades to get there, but then they got there. And he's still in power. And now they're the breadbasket of the world for like every fucking thing. And so here was this guy who was like, I don't know, he knew he wasn't in there for 4 years. He was like thinking decades into the future. I imagine he didn't even realize they were going to be the bread, the breadbasket of the world, more than a breadbasket, the gift basket, the Walmart gift basket of the world so quickly. But it happened because he was able to think decades into the future. It was like, oh, okay, like we can do this. And then now they're like, oh, we have a ton of extra money. China's one of like 4 countries in the world that has no debt with the World Bank. Like they have like a savings account in the World Bank. There's like a handful of countries that aren't withdrawing or are not like in the negatives with the World Bank. And China is one of them. So China is like, we're good.
Yeah, it's wild, but like that's such a good point. And like, so I read a quote somewhere, I can't remember where, um, that I feel is relevant here. It was pertaining to monarchies, but like the same general idea, which is like a good monarchy is the best form of government in the world. Like if you have a good leader who has absolute control, it's the best form of government in the world because it's so efficient at getting shit done. Like when you have a single leader who has like clear purposes, clear ideals, like they're working towards like the will of the people, like in like an autocratic government like China's, um he was thinking in terms of like what he was like building up during his lifetime because he has his whole life. In
Yeah.
monarchies, it's like, okay, well, like this is our entire lineage that is like in charge of this, and like if we fuck it up, like that's on all of us now. Like our entire lineage like loses its like authority. Um but yeah, like it's such a good point of like when you have someone who's in there for like like a lifetime. I mean, even fucking 10 years would make a huge difference
Yeah.
because like whether it's moving in a good direction or a bad direction, it's moving in one direction. Like something is happening. And it's like I would almost rather take the gamble, which I think if it was 10 years, people would like actually consider their votes a little bit
There would be
more.
more careful
Like,
voting. People would, and more people would show up because you wouldn't be having like to take time off work every fucking 4 years or every 2 years or whatever. Like, you'd be like, it's only every
right.
10 years I get to do this thing. Like, it's like seeing
Exactly.
Haley's
And it's like,
Comet. Like, people go out to see Haley's Comet because they're like, I'm only going to see it twice in my lifetime. Like, I'm going to fucking do this, you know?
exactly, exactly. And like if we cut out like all of like the primaries and everything like that, like every 10 years, every election that happens for the United States government, for the state level governments, everything
Hmm.
once every 10 years. Make people really consider it because like I think a lot of people were like, well, Trump could be funny for 4 more years. Like there wasn't that sense of
Yeah.
like weight. And I think that
Yeah.
like it part of it was like we were 4 years out from the start of COVID. And that was a very fast 4 years because everyone just went into a fugue state for
Yeah.
several years
Yeah. It's
on
true.
end. And so I think like the younger crowd who were like just old enough to vote, who hadn't been old enough to vote in the last election, they're like, well, 4 years is nothing because they
Yeah.
got that weird COVID based time dilation. They're like, 4 years is nothing. 4 years is, short enough for a joke. And then like
Yeah.
here we are now. But yeah, every 10 years, like imagine like a consistent government for 10 whole years. Like that would be
I don't,
so much
just so you know,
time.
I don't have to actually think about it because Trudeau was in power for 10 years. Chrétien was in power for like 8 years. Our system of government, hold on though, even though our system of
Yeah.
government does not have the like, you're capped at 8, like your system does, regardless, it didn't matter that I kind of just pointing out that like he was in power for 10 years, but that's because we went through a million elections with this guy because we have this sort of like it actually doesn't negate your point because your point is we're talking about election frequency, and like although he was in power for 10 years we had to vote like, because I don't know how it works in the States, but in Canada, like prime ministers can just call premature elections. So like it seems like from what I get the impression in America, it's like your elections are 4 years on the dot, do. A president
Yep.
can't just be like, I'm calling an election, but in Canada we can do that. So
Ah,
in the
that's cool.
parliamentary system. So it is and it isn't because we have more election, like more federal elections than every four
Mm,
years. So they're in a constant state of campaigning. And now, because we are a slightly more socialist country, and because our prime ministers have the ability to be in power longer, and prime ministers have more unilateral power than presidents do. Um,
mhm.
like it's, I think it was, I think it was Trudeau talking to Obama when he went to meet Obama, and they like Obama said something along the lines of like, I wish I had as much power as you because like our prime ministers can make more unilateral decisions. But when you have all that like frothy mix, then in that sense, people like Trudeau can make decisions thinking a little bit longer term than 4 years, because they know that like they could be in longer than that, and that like their legacy is a little bit more of a like ripple effect than an American government where you come in for 4 years, you rip apart what the last people did. Hopefully it sticks, and that, but maybe, and often it doesn't. Whereas like, Trudeau like legalized weed that was like one of the first things he did. He said he was going to legalize weed federally. He got in office, he legalized weed federally. He knew like it was going to be hard for any other government to roll that back once he did it, because everybody was already smoking weed anyways. So it was just going to be like, people were just going to be like, are you fucking kidding me? And it was going to create a huge tax revenue base. And so like nobody was ever going to want to get rid of that. So he like knew that he had this, this was going to be a legacy item for him. And I see Carney doing similar things, but Carney has this like vision for like basically doing to Canada what like Mao did in China. Not really, a little bit more like what Xi Jinping did in China, which is like, let's become like a manufacturing base. Like, but for like AI fucking farms and oil and shit. And like, he's kind of trying, yeah. And there's certain affiliations he has with big corporations. But, and again, like also like it's this propagandized thing of like, we're bringing all this stuff to Canada, but meanwhile like all the pipelines and things and these big projects that he wants to do in Canada, it's like, well, the majority owner is an American, like, or majority shareholders are American, like you're just selling us to the Americans for cheap. That's all you're doing, like, which is like exactly what you promised not to do to us, and you're doing anyways. I'm getting off base here because we were talking about the elective system.
No, those are really good points. And like, so in the US, like we do have the potential for a president to be in office for 8 consecutive years. I think technically the longest that a president could be in office is 10 years. Because if a sitting president dies, like I think halfway into like their presidency or more, then their vice president can like remain president for the entire rest of. And then like presidents are eligible for one re-election. So if they've been elected, then they can be like elected again.
Right.
So like we have had presidents who have spent 8 years in office, but like the American political system is so turbulent, and also like there's no guarantee that like someone who sat as a president for a particular political party is going to win the primary for that party again. Like it's not a given.
Right.
It's like generally if they like are it's in customary. Good graces with the establishment, it's customary. But like, so like, but so that makes room for if like a president was a bad president, where like the same party could like win 2 elections in a row, but have different people on the ticket. I mean, that's kind of what was going to happen if Kamala Harris got elected, is like Joe Biden was like running as the incumbent. Like he had already been in office. He was running for office again, but then like he felt the pressure from the establishment to like back off because like he was seen as too old and too out of touch. And then like Kamala Harris was like put in that position. So like the establishment can just be like, no, we don't want you running for us anymore. Or they can just platform their own person and like run against. Like, so there is the potential for slightly longer term, but I don't see that mindset in a lot of American politicians. I think part of it is because like they're all so fucking old that it's like, well, 4 years is the rest of my lifetime anyway. So like, why care beyond that? Like this is another thing that the 10-year cycle would fix, is like people would not be as eager to put fucking like elderly,
Yeah.
like retirement home age
Yeah.
people in office. Like it would have to be who is going to be alive for the next 10 years? Who is going to be in their right mind for the next 10 years? Like who is actually going to be able to fulfill that? Um yeah, but I don't see like very rarely do I see like American politicians who are thinking like in the long run, who are thinking beyond like just whatever like their current push is. Um and I wish that there was like more longevity to the governments. Like again, I would be willing to gamble on 10 years of a bad government because like if it gets bad enough the next 10 years, you better fucking believe people are going to vote for a better government to fix that. And like even if it's still sort of this tug of war of like working on undoing things and things like that, like 10 years is so much time to like make progress on any given thing.
Yeah.
Like oh my god, I think it would be so much better.
And back to your
Um
point about the gerontocracy, I think that's an excellent point. Like that, it's like even not only would you like your point to your point about people are going to be less likely to vote for an elderly person, but also like parties are going to be less likely to run them, you know, or back
yeah.
them in any way, shape, or form because it's like, why would you? And you know, the gerontocracy that we're living in globally, like not just America, but is in general like just such a problem, which is like why I'm like I wouldn't vote for Bernie Sanders. Like I wouldn't. Like I don't know what I would do. I mean, I guess I would have to vote for him if it was him versus Trump and I lived in America, but like it's part of me is just like even Bernie like should just get out the way, you know, like he should just be standing behind AOC saying like I endorse this person and like that should be his role. Like it's just like this anyways, but back to your point about the old people, you know, one of the moments, it's funny because it's like, I remember watching live on television the second tower go down on 9/11. You know, I was in my own apartment at that time, living with my roommates, and I like came home and they were like, we had this old TV with like bunny ears, you know, we only got CBC.
Yeah.
And we never used it. We just got it out of the back alley or something, and we had like bunny ears on it with like fucking tinfoil, and we picked up CBC and we turned it on once a year. But I just remember like my friend just like kind of running into my house because we lived really central in the city, and so a bunch of people would just kind of walk by and drop by all the time. And she was like, "Turn
Yeah.
on the TV, turn on the TV!" Like America's been attacked, and you know, it's funny because that's really imprinted in my mind, but almost more imprinted in my mind now is the debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, where Joe Biden was like so like slack jawed and frail and like confused. And I remember texting you and just being like, is this the best America has? Because you had Joe Biden, who was like clearly should be in a home. Like it's not like you should retire and be out of work, sir, but like you should just be fishing. But like beyond that, like you need care. Like you need somebody to be like checking to make sure you're taking your pills, kind of like level of old.
Yeah.
Versus Donald Trump, who is like a narcissistic sociopath, like a completely insane person and stupid, like stupider than the average American. And that says something. And you know, I remember texting you something like, is this the best America has? And you were just like, and I think I remember you saying you had to turn off the debate because it was that painful for you to watch. Like you were like, I can't even do this. But you know, that question, is this the best that America has? And that moment watching that is almost more powerful than watching 9/11 live, because the answer is no, that's not the best America has. I turn on YouTube every day and listen to incredibly intelligent Americans who know their own history and therefore are woke simply by virtue of the fact that they have like accumulated the facts. Like somebody like what's his name again? John Perkins, who wrote, you know, Confessions of an Economic Hitman. Like, that's a
Yeah.
fucking brilliant man. And he's not even as smart as some of the people that I see in these academics talking on YouTube who are like, the Jeffrey Sachs, for example, or some of the amazing journalists, like, and academics, and Hassan Piker is American. Like this these are brilliant. I sometimes, like, his mind is so fast and so sharp, and his ability to retain material and remember stuff and know his own history so well is mind-boggling. So the answer is no. This is why it sticks. This is why it sticks in my head, because the question is this the best America has? And the answer is clearly no. Not even close. Not even within a country mile. Not even on the same planet. Mars, Joe Biden, that they're so different. So then it creates this follow-up question, which is why that debate just sticks in my head, because the follow-up question is then, why are those the two we're watching? And that's like the heart of everything. Is the answer to that question answers like fucking everything. Like, why is that the choice then? Like, every American Hollywood movie depicts its president as like the best of the best. Its military is the best of the best. Like, if you're going to be a general in the military, that's because you're really smart. And if you're going to be the president, that's because you're really smart. And if you're going to be one of these people, that's because you're really smart. And like, actually, like, none of that is true. Like, people like that are like marginalized.
Yeah, I think there may have been a time in American history where that was more true. Like, I think, I feel like we'd have to rewind back to like fucking Teddy Roosevelt to get to like the president is actually like the best of the best, or one of the best of the best. The like military leaders are the best of the best. Like we truly have to go back like generations to get to like a time when like that felt true. But like that's such a good question of like, why are these the people? And it's like partially because like all the donors are fucking old as shit, and they only trust other people who are old as shit. Like the boomers won't go die.
Correct.
And they won't get the fuck out of their careers. Like, no one wants to retire anymore. Like they just want to continue occupying space rather than letting like younger minds, younger talents come in. And so like I feel like over the course of my lifetime, the like age gap between me and the people who are in charge has remained precisely the same.
Yeah.
Because like I think about like when I was like a little kid and like Clinton was in office. And I mean, God, he would have been what, his late 50s while he was in office, maybe?
Yeah.
I don't even
know. He
know.
was in his 50s for sure.
He was somewhere in his 50s. Okay, so like now I'm 34 and we got people in their 80s in the office. Like the gap has remained the same. And it's because it's that same generation of people. It's the baby boomer generation that doesn't want to relinquish their control of things. They don't want to relinquish like the power that they hold. They don't want to like they still see millennials as kids.
Yeah, they do.
They still think millennials are like college age and like paycheck to paycheck because we're buying avocado toast.
Yes,
like
exactly.
they have spent like decades insulting our tradition or our generation, saying, well, you just needed participation trophies, like you couldn't hack it or whatever, like even though they were the ones in leadership positions deciding to hand out those participation trophies. Like none of us wanted those.
Yeah.
Do you know how mortifying it is to have a trophy in your house that's for like participating in something? That's embarrassing.
Yes, it is.
No one wanted that. No one wanted a pat on the back that was just like a hollow, like, you did it, like you were there. Like no one wanted that. They decided on that, but they have like perpetually infantilized like those of us in our 30s and 40s, continue to see us as children, continue to see us as like not capable of taking on adult roles. And so they have continued to hoard those leadership roles, hoard their careers, hoard all of these things. And so like now like the leadership is just like getting older and older and older and older, and like also the people who are in leadership positions in corporations, same thing, they don't want to relinquish their holds to like younger people, which I think is like part of the reason why like all of the like tech CEOs are seen as like, oh, these are the cool guys of the future because they're like not fucking on their deathbeds.
Yeah.
They're the cool young guys. These are guys in their 40s and 50s, but they're the cool hip young guys
I
amongst these like
know.
80
It's
year
so
olds.
true. It's so true.
And so this is why Elon Musk still thinks that he's a cool guy,
Yep.
because like he is young amongst the elderly that
Yep.
he like is brushing shoulders with, but bumping elbows with, whatever. So like when like so many of the people in that generation are still of the mindset of no one younger than me is trustworthy, like I can't
Yep.
leave my 35-year-old son at home alone, like he can't be trusted.
Yeah.
Like it pushes them to vote for like these old senile guys who then end up being thrown on the ticket, because the baby boomer generation is a fucking huge generation.
Yes, it's
Birth
massive.
rates, as we discussed last time, like birth rates have been falling in Western nations. So like the proportion of old people versus not old people,
Yeah.
especially when you look at voting age people, like the old people take it.
Yep.
And so like we get these like old guys who are fucking Alzheimer's and dementia riddled, and like not able to stay awake during
Yep.
like debates or official proceedings, or like can't string together like 10 words into a coherent sentence. Like there's so much better out there. There are so many better people, and like by and large they are pushed out because they're seen as young whippersnappers who like
Yep.
don't have the like know-how or authority to like to lead. Which I think the minimum age for president in the United States is 35. I'm pretty sure it's 35. um which means I am 1 year away from technically being old enough to run for president. Half a year at this point. um can you imagine someone my age ever being considered, ever even making it into the top 5 for either party? Like it's so foreign to me to imagine the government actually like allowing someone my age,
Yeah.
someone within 10 years of me, someone within 15 years of me. Like Obama was such a young president compared to like the presidents that we had
Yeah.
had.
Yeah.
And like he got shit his entire time in office for, I mean, such offenses as not being white and wearing a tan suit and apparently tanking everything. Which like I'm not gonna say Obama was like a perfect president, but I feel like he was much more competent than the people we
Are
have
you?
seen.
He was like in all of the out of all the presidents I've seen in my lifetime, he was the best. And like again, there's no such thing as a perfect president, but there's also like a lot of contingencies that like I am not aware of. Like him bailing out the banks, like bad idea. On the other hand,
Yeah.
like you read Broken Money by Lynn Alden and you understand how like broad money and base money work, then you understand like why the government did it, because it wouldn't have just been like, haha, that's how capitalism works. A few banks went out of business. Like it would have rippled into your economy and crushed the entire global system if he hadn't. So they like really were too big to fail. But again, it's like what was it? It was just like treating type 2 diabetes with insulin. It does make the situation worse, because even though it's a stopgap solution, like the cracks in the plumbing are still there. So like if you didn't want it to happen again, like you needed to change the monetary system. But changing the monetary system to a system that works means giving up American imperialist power over the entire global economy, and like no American president will ever do that, because why would they?
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it would make, not only would it make you very unpopular with America, but like it would make you very unpopular with the world, and everybody would blame you, and like it's like he kind of had no choice, even though I'd still disagree with the choice. Um, and like, but anyways, and anytime America does anything like war wise, I'm just like, fuck off, America. Like that's like my general feeling about America's military. It's like, and American troops. I'm just like, fuck off. Like you should all, like, I think the globe should get together and can you say that word for me? Denuke
Denuclearize.
everybody. Like America can't have them either. But then the problem is with technology is ultimately like any skill, like once you have it, you can't lose it. Like, well, not any
Right.
skill, but like knowledge is something that it's like, well, we know how to make them now. Like that's it. So
Yeah.
somebody's gonna make them. But I don't trust America with them. I don't trust Russia with them. I don't trust North Korea with them. I think you're all dangerous. But America feels the scariest because it's the most likely to use them. And you have so many, and you have troops in every fucking country, and you meddle in everybody else's business. So it's like you're the scariest people to have them, like and as your neighbor, like who's had
Yeah.
the eye of Sauron flit for a moment in our direction. I can't imagine. I think a lot about Iranians because like the news cycle over here is very like up and down. It's like the war is on, the war is off, the war is on, the war is off. And like, Americans are kind of like done with whiplash. You're just all kind of like, okay, whatever. Like, let me know when something happens because Trump is so erratic. But if you're, as somebody who like is a Canadian and had America kind of like Trump being like, you should be the 51st state, and like, nah, never mind, and like, actually, you should be, and like, nah, never mind, and like, I will use military force. Nah, I'm just kidding. As somebody who like lived in the country next door that had that happen to me without anybody getting blown up, without elementary schools filled with children being blown up, I can tell you right now, it was like really terrifying. And so if I was in Iran, where like my children are going to school and my neighbor's children were just murdered by Americans, like the whiplash that's happening over there is very real. Like I would be
Oh yeah.
absolutely, like people are going to be traumatized for generations because of what Trump is doing to their country. Like generations. So yeah, like I don't. So wait a second. Let's circle back to like the original question, which was like a long time ago that I mentioned this, but it's like,
Um,
yeah,
do you mind if we pause before we circle back? Because I really need to pee.
sure.
Okay.
I'm gonna
I'll be
pump myself
back,
full of
viewers.
medication. Should I stop?
Okay.
Should I stop the stream or?
Nah, just leave it going.
Okay.
Our 3 fans will appreciate. I don't know.
Or
It's
no,
fine. I'm
there's
not worried
nobody.
about it.
I can see right now there's nobody watching. There has been nobody watching. We have no viewers as usual. So yeah, go pee.
So it's fine.
Yeah, yeah. Hello.
Hello. I just shocked myself on my mic.
No.
Um,
Um,
anyway, we were
maybe we
circling back.
should actually maybe we should end the stream and get personal. How do you feel about
Okay,
that? Okay, I'm gonna end it. Goodbye,
absolutely.
viewers.
Bye.
Let's see if I have to end it on